Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the mirror reflected the familiar yet altered image, River was struck by the stranger with a familiar gaze staring back. It was as though an unseen companion had always been lurking beneath their surface, waiting to be unveiled. Clad in a delicate pink chiffon, the narrow fabric flowed gracefully with each movement, amplifying the revolutions. Elevated by white strappy sandals, their once familiar frame now stood transformed, rising above the ordinary with newfound poise. With a curious mind, they ran their fingers through their short blonde hair, imagining the possibilities of a longer, untamed mane. The warm afternoon sun bathed the silent bedroom in a golden light, as if conspiring with River's clandestine exploration. The intoxicating blend of vanilla and jasmine hung in the air, aromas he had always longed to embrace without reservation. Unbeknownst to him, the silent house whispered secrets of its own, greeting River as he returned from work earlier than usual. At 32, River had built a respectable life as a software engineer, dating occasionally but never quite connecting with anyone deeply. Something had always felt missing. Just this once, he had whispered to himself when he turned the knob to Amber's room, heart pounding with both excitement and dread. Now, an hour later, the pink dress hugged his body in all the right places. River had always been slender, with delicate features that had earned him unwanted teasing in high school. But here, in this private moment, those same features seemed to make perfect sense. He practiced walking back and forth across the plush carpet, wobbling slightly in the unfamiliar heels. Each step became more natural than the last, his body adapting to this new way of moving through the world. The sound of a key in the front door downstairs shattered the moment. "Hello? Anyone home?" Amber's voice echoed through the house, sending panic coursing through River's veins. No, he muttered, frantically looking around for an escape route. The bathroom connected to her bedroom seemed the only option, but before he could move, footsteps ascended the stairs. Frozen in place, heart hammering against his ribcage, River watched the doorknob turn. The door swung open. Amber stood in the doorway, purse dangling from her fingertips, mouth forming a perfect O of surprise. For one excruciating moment, neither sibling spoke. "I can explain," River finally managed, voice cracking with emotion. "I was just—" "River!" Amber interrupted, stepping into the room and closing the door behind her. Her expression shifted from shock to something softer, more contemplative. "How long have you been wanting to try my clothes?" The question caught him off guard. There was no disgust in her voice, no judgment, just genuine curiosity. "I don't know. Forever?" The truth slipped out before he could construct a more acceptable lie. "I'm sorry. I'll take everything off right now." Amber shook her head, setting her purse down on the bed. At 35, she had always been River's protector, the one who understood him when no one else did. "The dress looks good on you. Better than it does on me, honestly. You're not angry?" "Why would I be angry?" Amber moved closer, examining River with an artist's critical eye. "Though if you're going to wear that dress, you should really have the right makeup to go with it." The tears came then, unbidden and unexpected. River sank onto the edge of the bed, the chiffon dress pooling around him. "I don't know what's wrong with me." "Nothing's wrong with you," Amber said firmly, sitting beside him. "Have you ever thought that maybe this is just who you are?" River had thought about it, in quiet moments alone, in dreams that left him feeling both liberated and ashamed upon waking. I don't know who I am anymore. Well, I've always thought Maya would have been a pretty name, Amber offered gently. Mom told me once that's what she would have named you if you'd been born a girl. Maya, River repeated, the name feeling right on his tongue. Maya, Amber squeezed his hand. Stay right here. Don't move. She disappeared into her bathroom, returning moments later with an array of cosmetics. Let me show you a few basics. Time seemed to slow as Amber worked, applying foundation to smooth out River's complexion, defining his eyes with subtle browns and golds that complemented his natural coloring. She showed him how to apply mascara without poking himself in the eye, how to choose the right shade of lipstick for his skin tone. You have amazing bone structure, she commented, blending blush along his cheekbones. Most women would kill for these cheekbones. The casual way she included him in the category of women made River's heart soar. Now, about your hair, Amber said, running her fingers through his short blonde locks. We could get you a nice wig to start. Something in this same blonde shade, but longer. I have a friend who works at a salon that specializes in high-quality pieces. The transformation continued as Amber taught River, now mentally trying on the name Maya, how to walk properly in heels. It's all in the hips, she explained, demonstrating the subtle sway that made feminine movement look so natural. Like this? River attempted to copy her motion, surprised at how right it felt. Perfect! You're a natural, honestly. The afternoon stretched on, filled with laughter and confessions. River told Amber about dreams where he lived as a woman, about the envy he felt watching her get ready for dates, about the emptiness that had plagued him for as long as he could remember. I always felt like there was something wrong with me, he admitted. Like I was living someone else's life. Maybe you were, Amber replied simply. The sound of the garage door opening interrupted their conversation, sending a jolt of panic through River once again. Mom and Dad, he whispered, eyes wide with fear. They weren't supposed to be home until tonight! Amber glanced at her watch. It's later than you think. We've been at this for hours. The realization hit River like a physical blow. He'd lost track of time completely and now faced a nightmare scenario, explaining to his traditional parents why he was wearing his sister's dress and a full face of makeup. What do I do? The question came out in a panicked whisper. Amber considered for a moment, then squared her shoulders. You be yourself. For once in your life, be who you really are. I can't. You can, she insisted. And I'll be right beside you. Footsteps echoed through the house downstairs. Amber? River? Are you home? Their mother's voice called up the stairs. River's legs felt weak, but Amber took his hand and squeezed it reassuringly. Just breathe. Remember what I showed you about walking. Shoulders back, small steps. Together, they walked to the stairs. River, feeling increasingly like Maya with each passing moment, took a deep breath and descended one careful step at a time, the white strappy sandals clicking softly against the hardwood. Their parents stood in the entryway, shopping bags in hand, expressions shifting from welcome to confusion to shock as they took in the sight before them. What on earth? Their father, Robert, a silver-haired man with kind eyes that now widened in disbelief, set down his bags slowly. Their mother, Eleanor, stood perfectly still, her gaze moving from the pink chiffon dress to the carefully applied makeup to the nervous but determined expression on her youngest child's face. "Mom, Dad," Amber began, still holding River's hand. "We need to talk." "I can see that," Robert said, his voice carefully neutral. "Living room, I think." The four of them moved to the living room in silence. River perched on the edge of the sofa, knees pressed together the way Amber had shown him, hands folded in his lap. The pink dress spread around him like petals, the white sandals gleaming against the dark carpet. "So," Eleanor broke the silence first, "would someone like to explain what's happening here?" River opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. How could he explain something he barely understood himself? "River has something important to share with you," Amber said gently. All eyes turned to River. The moment stretched, laden with possibility and fear. "I think," he began, voice scarcely above a whisper. He cleared his throat and tried again. "I think I might be a woman." The words hung in the air, irrevocable and true. Having said them aloud, River felt both terrified and liberated. Eleanor exchanged a look with Robert that contained decades of unspoken communication. "How long have you felt this way?" she asked carefully. "Always," River admitted. "But I never knew how to say it. I never had the words." Robert leaned forward in his armchair. "Is this why you've been so distant these past few years? Why you stopped coming to family gatherings as often?" River nodded, surprised by his father's perceptiveness. "It got harder to pretend, to be the person everyone expected me to be. And this," Eleanor gestured to the dress, the makeup. "This is who you really are?" "I think so," River said, gaining confidence with each word. "When I look like this, when I'm dressed this way, everything feels right. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm not pretending." The room fell silent again. Robert stood up and walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Eleanor remained seated, her expression unreadable. "Say something," Amber finally pleaded. "Anything." Robert turned from the window. "I don't understand this," he said slowly. "I won't pretend that I do. But I remember when you were born, how the doctor placed you in my arms and said, 'Congratulations, Mr. Wilson, you have a son.' And in that moment, all I wanted was for you to be happy. That hasn't changed." Eleanor reached for River's hand, her touch gentle. "This is unexpected. We'll need time to adjust. But you're our child, no matter what." "You're not angry?" River asked, voice trembling with emotion. "Surprised, yes. Concerned about what this means for your future, absolutely," Eleanor admitted. "But angry? No. How could we be angry about you finding your happiness?" "We have questions," Robert added. "A lot of questions." "And I'll try to answer them," River promised. "But some things I'm still figuring out myself." "Well," Eleanor said, squeezing River's hand, "perhaps you can start by telling us what we should call you, if not River." The question brought a small smile to River's lips. "Maya," he said softly. "I'd like to be called Maya." "Maya," Eleanor repeated, testing the name. "That was on our list, you know, if you'd been a girl." "I told her that," Amber interjected. "It's a beautiful name," Robert said, his voice gruff with emotion.
It suits you.
The tension in the room gradually eased as the family talked, asking questions, sharing feelings. There were difficult moments, misunderstandings, terms that needed explanation. But beneath it all ran a current of love that proved stronger than confusion or uncertainty. As evening deepened into night, River, now firmly thinking of herself as Maya, felt a weight lifting that she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. The pink chiffon dress still draped around her, the white strappy sandals still elevated her height, but they no longer felt like a costume. They felt like coming home. "I should probably change before dinner," Maya said eventually, glancing down at the dress. "This isn't exactly practical for eating spaghetti." "Actually," Amber suggested, "why don't you keep it on? I have some other clothes that might fit you better than that dress, but for tonight, well, it's kind of special, isn't it?" Maya nodded, grateful beyond words. "And tomorrow," Eleanor added tentatively, "perhaps we could go shopping. Get you some things of your own?" The offer brought fresh tears to Maya's eyes. "I'd like that very much." "Good," Robert said, standing up. "Now, who's hungry? I think this conversation calls for ordering in. Pizza? Chinese?" "Pizza!" Amber and Maya said in unison, then laughed. As Robert went to place the order, Eleanor excused herself to set the table. Maya and Amber remained on the sofa, the events of the afternoon still settling around them like dust after an earthquake. "Thank you," Maya whispered to her sister, "for understanding, for helping me." Amber smiled, bumping her shoulder against Maya's. "That's what big sisters are for." The words sent a rush of happiness through Maya. Sister. She had always been Amber's sibling, but now she was her sister. The rightness of it resonated deep within her soul. "Do you know what the strangest part of all this is?" Maya asked. "What's that?" "Today started like any other day. I had no idea that by tonight, everything would be different. That I would be different." Amber considered this. "Maybe you're not different at all. Maybe you're just more yourself than you've ever been allowed to be." The pizza arrived, and the family gathered around the dining table. The conversation flowed more naturally now, moving beyond Maya's revelation to everyday topics. Amber's work as a graphic designer, Robert's upcoming retirement, Eleanor's book club selection. Yet beneath the ordinary domestic scene, something extraordinary had happened. A rebirth of sorts. As Maya sat in her pink chiffon dress, carefully eating pizza to avoid staining the borrowed garment, she felt a sense of peace she had never known before. The days that followed brought a whirlwind of changes. True to her word, Eleanor took Maya shopping, helping her select clothes that flattered her figure while respecting her emerging style preferences. They purchased foundation garments that helped create a more feminine silhouette, shoes in Maya's own size, and a starter collection of makeup. Amber introduced Maya to her stylist friend, who helped select a beautiful blonde wig that matched her natural color but cascaded past her shoulders in gentle waves. The first time Maya saw herself with long blonde hair, properly styled clothes, and expertly applied makeup, she burst into tears. "That's me," she whispered, touching the mirror in wonder. "That's really me." The process wasn't without challenges. Telling extended family members brought mixed reactions. Some embraced Maya immediately. Others needed time. A few refused to accept the change at all. Colleagues at the software firm where she worked responded with varying degrees of understanding when she began the process of transitioning professionally. But through it all, Maya found strength she hadn't known she possessed. Each day brought new discoveries, new affirmations of her true identity. 3 months after that fateful afternoon in Amber's bedroom, Maya stood before her mirror once again. The pink chiffon dress hanging in her closet had been joined by an array of garments that expressed her personal style. Elegant dresses in jewel tones, comfortable jeans paired with feminine blouses, sensible yet stylish shoes. Her blonde wig, soon to be replaced by her own growing hair, sat perfectly styled on her head. Gone was the uncertain person who had sneaked into his sister's room, seeking answers. In her place stood a woman embracing her truth, step by step, day by day. The doorbell rang, interrupting her reflections. Maya checked her appearance one final time, smoothed the fabric of her teal dress, adjusted her blonde hair, touched up her lipstick, then went to answer it. Amber stood on the doorstep, dressed for their monthly dinner date. "Ready to go?" "Almost." Maya smiled, grabbing her purse. "How do I look?" Amber studied her sister, noting the confidence that now accompanied her movements, the genuine smile that had replaced years of forced expressions. "You look happy." "I am," Maya replied, stepping out into the evening air. "For the first time in my life, I really am." As they walked to the car, Maya glanced back at the house where she had lived as River for so many years. The same building now sheltered Maya, providing a space for her to grow into herself fully. Different, yet the same. Like her. "You know," Amber said as they drove toward the restaurant, "I kept that pink dress, the one you were wearing when I found you." Maya turned to her sister, surprised. "You did? Why?" "Because it's special. It's the dress you were wearing when you became you." Maya considered this, watching the city lights slide past the car window. "I wasn't born when the doctor handed me to Dad and said, 'It's a boy.' I was born the day you came home early and found me in your room." "Poetic," Amber smiled. "But true, I think." They arrived at the restaurant, a cozy Italian place that had become their regular spot. The maitre d' greeted them warmly, leading them to their usual table by the window.
"Ladies," he said,
pulling out their chairs.
"Your usual table."
The simple word, "ladies," sent a flush of pleasure through Maya. 6 months ago, such a casual acknowledgement would have seemed impossible. Now, it was her reality. "So," Amber said once they were settled with menus, "how's work been this week? Any more issues with that project you mentioned?" Maya launched into a story about her latest coding challenge, gesturing animatedly with perfectly manicured hands. She had found, somewhat to her surprise, that being true to herself had made her better at her job. The energy once spent on maintaining a facade now fueled creativity and problem-solving. Their conversation flowed easily, touching on Amber's newest design client, their parents' upcoming anniversary, mutual friends' lives, normal sister talk. As they finished their entrees, Amber's expression turned more serious. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course," Maya said, setting down her fork. "Are you dating yet? It's been almost a year since your last relationship, even before everything changed." Maya sighed, absently twirling a strand of her blonde hair. "I've thought about it, but it's complicated now. Do I date as a transgender woman? Do I tell potential partners right away? Wait until we know each other better?" "What does your therapist say?" "That there's no right answer. That I need to do what feels safe and authentic for me." Maya smiled ruefully. therapist answers are never straightforward. Well, for what it's worth, I think you'll figure it out. You've navigated everything else with grace. Grace? Maya laughed. Remember when I tripped over that plant stand at Mom and Dad's house last month? Fell flat on my face in front of everyone? Even cisgender women fall sometimes, Amber pointed out. Being a woman doesn't mean being perfect. True enough. Maya raised her wine glass. To imperfect women everywhere, then. Hear, hear. As they clinked glasses, Maya felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. For her sister's unwavering support, for her parents' difficult but genuine efforts to understand, for her own courage in finally embracing her truth. The journey ahead would have challenges, medical decisions, legal name changes, navigating relationships in her new identity. But looking across the table at her sister, Maya knew she wouldn't face those challenges alone. Want to split the tiramisu? Amber asked, eyeing the dessert menu. Always. Maya grinned. Some things, at least, never changed. Later that night, after Amber had dropped her off at home, Maya prepared for bed with the careful routine she had developed. Removing makeup, applying skincare products, hanging up her teal dress, placing her blonde wig on its stand. Each step held meaning now, a ritual of self-care that honored her identity. She drifted to sleep thinking about the afternoon that had changed everything, how a moment of crisis had transformed into the first step toward freedom, how being caught in her sister's clothes had led to being seen, truly seen, for the first time. 6 months later, as spring bloomed across the city, Maya stood before a different kind of audience. The community center's meeting room was filled with people of varying ages, all listening intently as she shared her story. I never planned to come out that day, she told the supportive crowd, her blonde hair now grown to her shoulders, styled in soft waves. But sometimes life doesn't wait for perfect timing. Sometimes, the moment chooses you. The support group she now helped facilitate had become an important part of her life, a place to both receive and offer understanding. After the meeting, a young adult approached her, nervousness evident in their stance. Your story about your sister finding you in her clothes, that's almost exactly what happened to me, they confided. Except my brother wasn't as understanding, not at first anyway. Family relationships take time to adjust, Maya acknowledged. Have things improved? Slowly. Hearing that your family eventually came around gives me hope. Maya smiled, feeling the familiar warmth that came from connecting with others on similar journeys. Hope is essential. That and patience. With others and with yourself. After speaking with several more attendees, Maya gathered her belongings and headed out into the evening. Her pearl-colored blouse and navy slacks felt comfortable, professional, clothes that belonged to her, chosen by her, expressing her authentic self. Her phone buzzed with a text from Amber. Dinner at Mom and Dad's still on for Sunday? Dad's making his famous pot roast. Maya smiled, typing back a quick affirmation. These regular family dinners had become important touchstones in her transition journey, marking progress not just in her own evolution, but in her family's adaptation as well. Walking to her car, Maya reflected on the distance traveled since that pivotal afternoon. The memories remained crystal clear. The feel of the pink chiffon against her skin, the wobble of those first steps in white strappy sandals, the terror and exhilaration of being discovered, the unexpected acceptance that had followed. She had kept her promise to explain things to her parents, though some explanations had taken time and many conversations. Robert and Eleanor had attended family therapy sessions with her, learning terminology, asking questions, processing their own complex emotions about their child's identity. Now, nearly a year later, they rarely stumbled over her name or pronouns. Eleanor had become unexpectedly passionate about transgender rights, joining a parents' advocacy group and educating her book club friends. Robert, more quietly supportive, had mastered the art of correcting extended family members who misgendered Maya at gatherings. Arriving home, Maya kicked off her shoes and made a cup of chamomile tea, settling onto her couch with a contented sigh. Her apartment, once decorated in neutral tones that reflected River's reluctance to express any strong preferences, now showcased Maya's developing aesthetic, warm colors, interesting textures, personal touches that told the story of a woman coming into her own. On the bookshelf sat a small framed photograph, taken at last year's Christmas gathering. In it, Maya stood between her parents, wearing a deep green dress that complemented her coloring, her blonde hair styled elegantly, her smile genuine. It was the first family photo of Maya rather than River, a visual record of her rebirth. Beside it stood another frame, this one containing a small piece of pink chiffon fabric. Amber had brought it to her as a housewarming gift when Maya moved into her new apartment, away from the memories and constraints of River's old life. "A piece of the dress," Amber had explained. "I thought you might want a reminder of where it all began." The gesture had moved Maya to tears. That small square of fabric represented so much. Courage, truth, acceptance, love. The beginning of her authentic life. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. A meeting with human resources about updating her employee records. A doctor's appointment to discuss hormone therapy options. Everyday tasks that took on new dimensions when navigating them as a transgender woman in transition. But tonight, sipping tea in the quiet of her own space, Maya felt only gratitude for the sister who had come home early that day, for parents willing to grow and learn, for her own courage in finally embracing her truth. She ran her fingers through her blonde hair, still marveling at the simple pleasure of its length, its softness. So many small details of womanhood that she had observed from a distance for decades were now hers to experience directly. The pink chiffon dress that started it all now hung in a special place in her closet, preserved as a reminder. She rarely wore it anymore, having developed her own style that suited her body and personality. But sometimes, on significant anniversaries, she would take it out and remember the turning point it represented. As she prepared for bed that night, Maya caught her reflection in the bathroom mirror. No longer a stranger's gaze, but her own. No longer a mask worn over her true self, but her authentic face, lined with the experiences of her journey. "Hello, Maya," she whispered to her reflection, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. The woman in the mirror smiled back, at peace with who she had become and who she had always been.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!